My name is Kwabna Chenche Hiniboati. Many thanks for joining us here on Newsdays. Let's start off with the latest Afrobarometer survey, which has revealed that up to 35% of Ghanaians have once paid a bribe for water and other essential services. Respondents were asked whether they have tried to get water, sanitation, or electricity services from government officials and how often they have had to pay a bribe, give a gift, or do a favor to the officials in order to get the services. Now, 35% of the respondents in Ghana said they paid a bribe to get the service. This makes Ghana the 6th worst performing country among the 36 African countries surveyed. My colleague Derek Ekosam has been speaking to a lot more Ghanaians on their take on the figures being churned out and whether or not they have even paid a bribe before in their bid to get a service.
It's true. Even any office in this country do. Even yesterday, I just went to Medilab to do my medical report. And when I paid before, I got my report. Because I needed it. Even they have delayed me for 3 days. So I paid it before just. They give it to me. Any office in this country. Any office, they did.
Once worked with the judicial service. You get it? So I wasn't surprised when a nurse came out that the system is corrupt there. I was once working there. When I got to realize the system was too much corrupt. I left the system. I left there. I left judicial service. Bribing and corruption. It's all over the place. Right. I have never paid bribe to anybody. Now, look at when the media people refused to attend to me because I didn't have money. Look at it. I needed to pay, the cost of that solid, which you all understand. You understand that? So that's solid. When I went around, shared about 16 letters to FM stations to attend to me so that I create awareness on societal pressure. If they refuse, I said, look, I don't have a password. Then I climbed a building, tie a rope around my neck. Then they came. I didn't pay a password. Me, for instance, somebody telling me he paid bribe. For instance, I have not paid bribe to anybody yet. I wouldn't do it. No matter how you frustrate me. Sometimes if you are not even careful, I will disgrace you.
And that one there is true. Because in Ghana, when you not pay the bribe, they can't even do the thing fast for you. So you have to pay some so that they will do it fast for you. So as for me, I've paid bribe to do something for me before.
What do you pay the bribe for?
Oh, actually, my passport. Yeah, I can remember my passport when I was doing because I was in a hurry. I have to put something down so that they will do it fast for me. Yeah.
So when you paid the bribe, how long did it take you to get your documents?
No, actually, let me say, it took about 1 month.
So those were the views of quite a number of people here on the streets of the capital. I'll be coming back to this story pretty shortly, but let's now turn our attention to something that has been happening at the tertiary front. Now, you might want to reconsider your course of study at the tertiary level if you are to get access to a student loan in Ghana and indeed the entire sub-region. This is because of ongoing discussions targeted at streamlining access to the fund in the wake of repayment defaults by a number of beneficiaries who are unable to settle their debts early enough because of lack of jobs due to their programs of study at the tertiary level. Now, Chief Executive Officer of the Student Loan Trust Fund Ghana, Sheila Naboama, in an interview joining you, says though government will have to take a final decision on the issue, her outfit believes streamlining access to the fund is the sure way to go if it is to remain relevant.
How do we balance scarce resources with creating value in terms of the people who can benefit from it? How do we put our money where our needs are? So the discussions at that platform is one that is looking at the continent currently has over 70% of its population below 35. What this tells us is that the youthful energy that we can derive from this population, it's going to be hinged on education. How do we support the vulnerable but brainy people within the continent to attain this very enviable thing of attaining higher education? Apart from that, are we just looking at giving the money to them to attain education that they don't find jobs in? Or looking for moving forward, should we start matching the resource to national relevant areas? Those are discussions that are taking place at the level of the continent. If I bring it down to Ghana, I think that it's taking place in Ghana at in a different format. I remember reading quite recently the National Accreditation Board streamlining the kind of institutions that they are going to be giving accreditation to. What this means moving forward is that if you don't get accreditation to start with, you can't benefit from the student loan. So countries look at moving or migrating resources towards that solution in different approaches. But what is important is that the current generation policymakers, stakeholders in education must start planning for the needs of the future. And those plans would have to be matching scarce resources to courses or expertise that are needed to drive national development. And that discussion or those discussions would have to start now. Those are the issues that is discussing. Some countries have taken the lead to amend their laws. Other countries are using different approaches.
Do you think there's a need for a country like Ghana to look at such an option?
Well, at the Student Loan Trust Fund, policy directives of this nature would have to come from the sector ministry. Those type of specific discussions would have to be led by that. So I am not going to be able to say, let's change the law now or in the future. But being the kind of statistics that I'm exposed to, having worked with universities and institutions and the growth in tertiary education, I think that it would be the way to go moving forward. If we have to continue to fund meaningfully, if we have to give the people who need us the money they need, if we have to avoid a situation where only the rich people's children are taking courses that are financially demanding, then we need to start now. Education must be made accessible to people based on their brains and not based on their pockets. And together we must make sure that that is going to happen.
So if you are to employ such an approach, which courses, for instance? Well, the Student Loan Trust Fund is meanwhile considering a review of the money given to beneficiaries with a projection of between a 25% and 60% increase to the figure next academic year.
Fund revision, amount revision in the past decade has happened 5 times already. So it means that as the cost of financing tertiary education is rising, so is the demands for more money. And anytime these demand comes, they go through the processes leading to a final decision. So we will get there.
Is a review in the pipeline as you speak?
Yes, the review is in the pipeline. Several calls have been made on the fund and to the sector ministry. And so they've tasked the board to do the analysis and the background, all the consultation that would lead to something like that. So we have to make information available to the decision makers to be able to tell whether the decision will be this year or the next academic year. But ultimately, once they are sure of how they will fund it, that decision would be arrived at.
So what percentage increase you are looking at now?
There are several options that have been tabled. The percentage scenarios that we are doing, we've looked at a range of percentages from as low as about 25% to as high as about 60%. But like I said, a decision has not been done. The various percentage scenarios are being studied, and then we would forward it to the sector ministry for decision-making purposes. Repayment would be a strong inflow into the fund to sustain its activities. However, if there is a fall in repayment, you are right, it could bring the fund to the ground, because repaying the portfolio increases every year. So the amount of money needed to service the growing demands continues to increase. There is no way we can ignore the contribution of repayment in a trend which is that of increasing numbers. So definitely the fund must keep its eye on repayments to ensure that we financially remain healthy.
And that was Sheila Boama. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the Student Loan Trust Fund Ghana, shedding a lot more light on the issue. There will be getting some reactions from particularly students on this issue. Depending on the course you take, the fund might decide to give you X amount of money or Y amount of money, or in fact, they can't choose not to give you access to the funds at all. We'll be delving a lot more into this pretty later on. But let's take a break here on News Desk. When we come back, we have a lot more stories for you. Stay with us.